Welcome to the Heart of the Matter podcast, where we have honest and vulnerable conversations about life and relationships. And we say, listen, don't think that you're going to come out here with a stitch of clothing on. We getting butt naked today. Now, listen, as much as we appreciate your successes, here you get celebrated for your vulnerability about your challenges and your failures. Now, I'm life and relationship coach Christopher Doc Reed, here with my guy, Charles Pookie Oliver. What's up, man?
What's happening? Man?
How you feeling?
Man, I'm feeling great. Got a great guest today, man.
Your outfit, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
We
ready
do
to get
have
at
a
it.
great guest.
We do. We do.
Super special guy. Mm-hmm. So, met him 2021, and he became one of my clients, but quickly became more than that. Now, you know how much I like hunting and fishing, right?
Never.
Okay. So this guy said, Doc, how about you come on out, man? I take you shooting and fishing. And it was amazing, right? Mm. And so duckbill fishing is like imitation dolphins, but okay. it was a good thing, man. And but more importantly than all of that, he's just a great human being. Yeah. So help us welcome to the podcast, Chad.
Yes, sir. Chad. Yes, sir.
What's up, man?
How's it going, guys?
Yeah. So as you can see, Child's a wild guy. From that. Hello. But I feel like you're a mother from your brother. Yeah, what's that? You're a brother from a different mother. Like you know what I mean? Like you're because we're both empaths, okay? And we both represent OSU. Now, here's the deal. Like we're from an alternate universe because I represent the Ohio State University. And I think there's some other one that exists out there that you affiliated with.
Right.
Well, who is that?
The Oklahoma State University.
Ontario State? Oh, okay.
No, the real OSU.
Oh, okay.
With the good colors.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice. I mean, I got to get it. You know, you got to rep Oklahoma, man. So what's up, man? Glad to have you here.
Glad to be here.
You comfortable?
Terribly excited. Terribly comfortable.
Yeah, that's your terribly excited face. I enjoy
right.
it. Yeah. No, we going to get into it, man, because we don't want to waste a second, because we want to talk about marriage, bad marriage, horrible divorce, and then life after divorce, which, Pook, I know you don't know nothing about any of that, right?
Oh, I think I got
some
quite time in that.
Yeah. It's something about divorce, man. Like people on our podcast, when they in the comments, man, it's like it's a big thing. With men in divorce and like the hell that men go through, they feel like nobody sees it. It doesn't, really register. So people seem to comment on that. So we're going to talk about it. Before we get into that, hey, y'all, please make sure you subscribe. We want to keep the videos coming to y'all, but got to subscribe. So, all right, let's jump into it. We like to go back to the beginning, where it all started. We want to talk to little baby Chad, okay? Running around in a big diaper. So, what would you say when you were growing up? What did you learn about relationships that either prepared you or didn't prepare you for marriage and love and all of that? What was that like for you?
Well, I never knew mom and dad together.
Okay.
2 months old, mom and dad. So I never saw what mom and dad together. Mm-hmm. Now, my older siblings, they saw the split because there's 6 and 8 years difference between us.
Okay.
So for me, I didn't know mom and dad together. They were just two people.
Okay.
And I would see dad every other weekend. But I lived with mom.
Okay. So that was normal to you?
That was normal, yes.
Okay. So how was their relationship since they weren't together? How did they interact?
Up until probably 12, it wasn't the best.
Okay.
You get one side of the bitter side of the story, and then the other side of trying not to talk about it because it's not something that was on the forefront.
Okay.
But it was just, I'm doing my own thing.
Okay. Who was doing their own thing?
My mom.
Okay. So up until 12, it was rocky. So what impression did that leave with you? You know, because, you know, like I said, you're an empath, right? And so you feel things very deeply. How were you navigating that?
Tiptoeing for the most part, trying not to say the wrong thing. Just being concerned. Just, I don't want to deal with it. I love my dad and my stepmom, which I call my bonus mom.
Okay.
Because she's been there from the beginning, and love her to pieces. So I mean, I felt fortunate.
Okay.
I never saw her as somebody else in the house. No, that's dad and bonus mom.
Right.
Inseparable. I mean, so that was probably the closest thing that I ever realized as a normality of relationship, just because I always knew that. Now, my older siblings, that was a little bit different.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, obviously they experienced a different.
Absolutely.
So, and then whenever 12 came around, it was kind of a forced get along between mom and dad, because I was playing so much baseball.
They had to interact.
Okay.
They had to interact, and I mean, just save face, and just let's not create any problems.
So in your experience, like as a child, right, going through that, who would you think or say was the one that kind of was in that, I don't want to say bitter space, but operated in that bitter space, like this is not comfortable for us?
My mom was the one that always just tried to stay. She's always the ultimate peacekeeper. So
Okay.
she wanted to just, hey, let's do our thing. I don't want contention. Just let's go do our thing.
Okay.
So process of elimination, dad wasn't.
That's where a lot of stuff stem from.
Got
And
it.
of course, here we never want to, it's not about throwing anybody under a bus, because we always say, even with our parents, they did what they knew to do based off the tools that they had. And so when we share our stories and our experiences, they're just that. They're our experience. Not to say that any of it the intent was malicious, but at the same time, based off somebody's action, there becomes collateral damage, right? And oftentimes with parents, the kids, catch that.
But and another thing with that though, having to deal with being the dad that's raising daughters, and you have to deal with or try to co-parent with someone that holds on to bitter feelings and holds on. It's hard. It's definitely hard.
I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, nobody gives a book to say.
Right.
Here's every situation. You know what I mean? There's every situation that's different.
Right.
Now the common ground may be sports or events for us to be like, okay, let's come together and do this.
Right.
Yeah.
But communicating outside of that,
Right.
when there hasn't been any resolve, is hard.
I would say from my experience, my parents did again, it's my only experience, but did a good job for the most part trying to keep whatever happened behind the scenes, communication wise. I mean, I grew up in the late 80s and early 90s, so we didn't have texting.
Right.
So there was no texting. Now phone calls or anything of that nature that might have taken place.
Right.
Okay, well, that didn't happen in front.
Okay.
So that part, I would say they did a really good job, and it was healthy. But as a man at the same time that has been divorced, I know what the bitter feelings feel like. And fortunately for me, I didn't have kids with my ex-wife.
Okay.
And thank God that was a saving grace. That once that divorce decree came out, I don't ever have to speak to that woman ever again.
Right.
Don't have to see her, don't have to deal with her. It's done.
Yeah.
There's not this 8-10 years left of
Oh yeah.
having to try to co-parent with somebody that, well, obviously they didn't want to be in my life, and I was saying, thank God.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
You know, afterwards that.
Well, Poop doesn't have that testimony.
So I feel like I'm in a unique spot in that regard.
You are.
Because, and I mean, again, it took a long time to get divorced, and I was counting down the days.
Yeah.
The anxiety, just waiting.
We about to get into that.
Yeah.
So, but okay, so growing up, whatever you got, you go into a marriage. What was it about your ex that made you say, "All right, nah, she's the one. This is it."
Oh, here we go. She was big into the church.
Okay.
And which I'm sure later we'll find out more about it, but
she was really into the church.
Oh,
okay.
Sorry.
She was balls deep into the church.
When you say big into church, like how?
She was on the worship team.
Oh, okay.
And very active and involved, and it was almost like a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
Being included, but then having to then switch churches early on because I was just that guy that was tagging along.
Right.
And so it's just like, oh, okay, this sucks. But that was the church issue, right? Okay. That I noticed.
So that drew you. You liked the fact that she was into the church. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not that into the church.
Yeah, right. but was that because of your own personal convictions and you said, hey, I want a woman who loves God?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
There was a spiritual attraction.
Got you.
That really drew me in.
Okay.
Which, anyway.
Yeah. So when did that change? When did it change into something that was like, okay, or what were those first signs that you was like, I don't know, here something may be going on?
I'd say probably a good 2 years about how before things really started to change.
No real red flags prior to the 2 years though?
Oh, I mean, there were red flags, but not with the church aspect.
No, what were the red flags that got your attention prior to that?
The church was far more important than anything else. The amount of time, I'll get to you whenever my important stuff is taken care of.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was this just prioritization. Again, I understand the hierarchy of how a marriage should be.
Right.
God first, man and wife second, and then the kids third.
Yeah.
That's the hierarchy. And that's the way it should be.
Okay.
Find your one, then you find your two.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. But it became excessive, almost like a compulsive type of just drop everything.
Almost like cult like energy. You know what I mean?
You know, I don't want to say that, but in a sense, because everybody's needs inside of the church came before anything else of the household or mine.
Yeah.
And so those were the signs that at the time it was just like, okay, hey, somebody super committed, bought in 1,000,000%. They're just, but you start seeing more and more with time, and that was the.
And how did you communicate your concern, and what was that met with?
Just being like, hey, I remember this one younger girl that was kind of brought under the wing, and I was like, hey, you're putting these people way in front of your number two. Like I'm like number 6 or 7, maybe 8 on the list, right?
Right.
And oh, well, that's just my calling. This is what God's telling me I need to do. And then I'd say probably a year later, it was met with, because bringing up more concern, it was met with, well, I'm just outgrowing you spiritually.
Hey, so hearing this, right? Giving a little backstory, growing up as a PK kid, right, and growing up as a musician, praise team, travel around, play music. I think the not to excuse it, but the belief is right. The more I'm in church, the more I'm doing God's will. The more I'm doing this, like participating and being on the ministry and then I'm doing God's will. And I think it's an interpretation that some takes into overdrive to say, you know what, let me do more of this and everything else will fall in place. But that is like is a horrible way to go and really say I'm serving Christ and a Christian, right? Because really family is really our ministry and what we should be doing and speaking to, but how to keep that in priority and how to prioritize that. It could be a huge struggle. And the only reason why I say that, because I'll put this out there every single time we do the podcast. I challenge anybody in the country to say they've been to church more than I've been to church and my family's been to church.
He's in the Guinness Book of Church Records.
It hasn't, when I say like 7 days a week, 7 years straight, then travel all over and then do services on weekends like 2 or 3 times a day, right? It really, you don't have any time for family. But when you grow up as a teenager doing that, that becomes your norm. Right. So now I'm looking for someone that I can interact with in between that, you know what I mean? Which makes horrible, because it's like that person sitting there like, what about me? But whenever church is, hey, we can have a date set up. I'm going. I got to go. Church needs me tonight.
Church called.
Church called. Let me go.
There's a fire to put out.
Exactly. Every single time. Or I got to save a soul. And
that's right.
We grew up with the same 7 souls in our church. So it wasn't.
I wasn't packing them out.
Not at our church. So it wasn't many different souls to keep saving. You know what I mean? Being loose with that. But it's the mentality behind it. So I can just imagine the other person on the other end, how that will feel to say, hey, we're in a relationship. Where do I fit in at? And
the real part of the red flag that I really clued in on was the amount of attention that was being given. Because being a female on a worship team is not uncommon, but starting to lead worship and the music pastor stepping aside and allowing for more expansion for a vocalist per se, but not lead. Start going into lead, and then the amount of attention and praise. And then there was an admission later of, well, I started idolizing worship. Because it was, I don't know if it was a God complex and personally, but it was almost like a drug that if she wasn't getting that hit from the attention, then she had no worth. Yeah. Because from a job perspective, she didn't have anything. She wasn't just like this big time businesswoman as a cosmetologist, right? Right. And she did a good job, don't get me wrong. But she didn't have something that was really driving her for a sense of accomplishment or worth. So that's where the worship aspect and I started to notice that. And it's not knocking worship. Please don't take it that way.
No. But you can start to idolize it, or it can get into more of an addictive level, because it gives you your dopamine. It gives you your spike, your sense of purpose. Yeah. And
so that's long story, but a little bit of how it really started to come about a year before things really took a totally different route.
Yeah. So then let's talk about that. What was that thing that just made you really know we're not okay?
Is it okay to say? I mean, free speech?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. An affair with a female pastor. And that year leading up, man, they were inseparable. Staying the night at her house, and it just.
How did you know that it was an actual affair versus them just spending, this became my new BFF and we just hanging out? How did you know?
Because I got a phone call. I was actually out at the deer lease with my dad where we hunt on 1,200 acres, and got a phone call. I have to talk to you right now. Nope, can't talk to you over the phone.
We all love those calls.
Oh wow.
Look,
Who was?
Who was that? Who was calling?
that was the ex-wife.
Oh wow.
Oh, okay.
So obviously it took place the night before, and she stayed the night there, and then I guess she just had a ton of guilt. And anyway, so face-to-face conversation, and there it came out, and it was just like, wow. And then the female pastor shot me a text and said, "Hey, this is what happened."
Was it just emotional?
Oh no, the emotional had been transpiring for.
Wow.
Well, yeah, that's it, right?
Yeah, no,
is
yeah.
because I could tell for that year. I mean, there was just no connection, right? I mean, emotionally, physically, and all that stuff.
Between
I mean,
you and your ex.
yeah, there was that checkout. So the emotional part, looking back, that's okay. That's a no brainer,
Right.
But no, it was physical, and I remember this specific text. And the female pastor said at that time, "Don't let your brain go wild in some sort of fantasy." And I was like, what? "Dude, you just said it was physical. I really don't care about the details." right?
Exactly.
You know, like this is not some fetish of mine that I'm thinking like, "Oh my gosh, this hey, maybe can I jump in?" No, no, nothing like that. No, because what my thought process was, I don't care. That the image of that is not anything that's going to stimulate me, because you're not seeing the monster behind the cage.
Yeah.
That's wanting to come out.
Yeah. Okay.
And anyway, so so that was the first. Let's just say the first act.
So, after you get this information, since you already said it was, disconnect. What was your initial thought and your reaction to this? Like, where do we go from here? Do we get counseling, or do I stay?
Oh, well.
Do I pray about this? Is what,
So there was, let's just say, it was either, I think it's probably the next day, there was the complete and total breakdown, which, looking back, was very fake. But then it turned into... This was her
apology, you mean?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Then it turned into, well, I'm going to unalive myself, and I'm worthless. And I mean, just...
Oh, wow, yeah.
And at the time, I was like, okay, I got to step outside of my emotion right now, right? This is still my wife at the time. Mm-hmm. I'm supposed to protect, stand in front, to lead her, stand behind her, to protect her, and stand beside her, because she's my equal, right?
That's so rich.
Yeah.
So I was like, dude, I've got to really just step back and be a man of God and be a husband. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I took my emotion out of it, and it just, it was like this tailspin of just, oh my gosh, what did I do? And all this stuff. I just need to just end my existence, because I'm not worth anything. And so I literally had to get in her face and yell at her, "You made a mistake. This does not define who you are. You are worth it."
There's a lot there.
Oh, yeah.
Meaning, at no time have I heard you had an opportunity to lick your wounds.
Not at all.
No, not at all. I set that aside, because that wasn't my time. Because when somebody's talking in that manner, I think it's more pressing to take care of that person. If they're really in that type of state, to where they can at least get, instead of this up and down crazy, bottom, let's try to at least get it back to an even kill, and then we have a chance to maybe discuss and whatnot, which there's more to that later.
Were they getting therapy or counseling for that? If they're talking about ending it and all that, just like, we got to talk to a pastor that we both respect or something like that? Or
no, this came out inside of the, what did I do? Look, and then just the hysteria and all the stuff behind it.
Now, only because I know your story and situation, I got to ask the question: was that a genuine? Okay, I think I don't deserve to be here, or was there any manipulation in that?
Of course, there was manipulation because there's more to the story, and you know the story, so you know I'm not. not telling the truth on that one.
Yeah, but for the sake of our viewers, you know.
Yes, absolute. Because it wasn't. I'm sorry to you for what I possibly could have done. It's look at what I just did to my image, because this is going to come out. But at the same time, there's also a lot of people that try to skirt things underneath the rug.
Oh yeah.
Whenever there's a bigger image that needs to be protected.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And don't ever kid yourself if you haven't been in that position or around it, because there are people are still people, regardless of what they're affiliated with.
Absolutely. My question I was going to ask you was, in that time, right? Just knowing, like, maybe I can understand if there was like behaviors leading up to in the past where you're like, you know what, they're kind of known for maybe going off the cuffs and wanting to talk about killing themselves and past times, but and then to know you got cheated on, right? Stepped outside of your marriage. And when did you ever have the time to say, let me heal? Where does that happen at in between all of this? Because you immediately went into, let me help save this, right? Let me help them get back to some normalcy while you're trying to deal with all these emotions that you got going on yourself.
Right. Well, it took quite a while because there's still more to this story that then blames me as the cause for what happened with a female pastor.
Oh, you were the devil in this.
Oh, of course.
So what's the more to the story?
Okay, well, first I got to back up because you had asked, was there any behaviors that led up to this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, this is the first red flag, and I waited to tell this story so I could backtrack a little bit to give a...
Okay.
So 3 months into dating, there happened to be a guy that was involved, and obviously I saw all the communication. She left her Facebook open on my computer and clicked on it, and sure enough, I was like, holy crap. And then you go back to this getting filled up with Jesus from another person kind of vibe, like you're, and so I was driving, I had a 350Z at the time. I was probably doing 140 down the interstate because I was so pissed. I was flat just flying, right? And then I looked down, and I had, and I love these, and I call them a stupid bracelet, but it puts things into perspective for you, right?
Okay.
It was a WWJD bracelet. What would Jesus do?
Yeah.
Slow down.
No. No. Not slow down. Drift a U-turn through the median and turn back and go talk to her.
Okay.
Because I felt convicted. Man, give somebody a second chance.
So hold on. What was what did the Facebook messages say?
Oh, and this was a guy from church, right?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Church is this?
I know, man. I know. I'm telling you, this is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. So it was just like, hey, I'll show you a real good time. Your dude doesn't know how to take care of a lady, and just the puffery. And this guy, I'd love to say his name because.
Yeah, say his name.
I know. I'm not going to, but I would love to.
Wow.
And anyway, it was bad weather when this took place, right? But then me driving 140 in a sports car, it was clear. I mean, it was at night, obviously pissed off, but so that was a little process of emotion, but that's okay. Her mom took her over to this guy's house.
Why?
What for? What? To pray?
Oh yeah, they're praying on their knees real hard. If you know what I'm saying. Yeah, getting a whole lot of holy on that one.
Wow.
Yeah.
This was before you got married.
Yeah. And then
And you this is before you got married?
3 months into the relationship. Yeah. I know. But the young, dumb, 19-year-old kid.
You know about red flags before you got married.
Oh, absolutely.
He called the wedding off, and
I did.
Dodo Bird over here still decided to get married.
Yeah, absolutely.
And anyway, so that was the first red flag. But again, hey, everybody deserves a second chance because Lord knows I need one. Okay. I'm not a cheater, so that's never been in my repertoire. So thank God. But I've lied, cussed, cheated, or not cheated in the sense of on somebody. Cheated on tests, stolen stuff.
You're not perfect.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But I know that is my, that's my one thing.
Yeah.
So, but Hussein is, not equal to somebody else's because they did it a different way. So anyway, there's this young mind that is impressionable and all that stuff. And I was like, nah, we can get through this. Right? I want to do things different. I want to have some grace, second chance. So that's 3 months in. So I had to tell the first story Chad. To then, let's get the prelude to the first act
you okay?
of the church.
You okay?
Man, this is
like you're being triggered.
This is a lot.
Okay?
This is a whole lot.
This is an onion that has lots and lots.
And you're just steadily forgiving. Steadily. I'm gonna be the bigger person. Jeez. Okay.
To a fault. Obviously.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. And so that's the first act.
Okay. And so was there another after the female pastor? Was there another incident with anyone else?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And trust me, I've got the lie detector results for
my
that
gosh.
one. Yeah, so it's hard proof.
Gosh.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's a little bit of this first act that needs to be disclosed on how to process the feelings.
Okay.
Because I think this is very important.
Okay.
Because it was as traumatic as the actual affair. And so you asked, okay, how did Chad deal with this? All right, well, there was a couple from the church that said, hey, don't get anybody involved in this. Come over to our house. We'll do counseling. We'll do all this stuff.
Bad move. Go ahead, though.
Trusted people, right?
Yeah.
All right, so the wife of the two had an emotional affair with somebody before. Right, hadn't got physical, but that's as bad, if not worse, than physical, right? So the husband was relatable to my scenario, right? But then I started getting blamed. This is your fault. Why this happened? I was like, I didn't. Trust me, I've got my faults. A workaholic, all the stuff, but because I'm trying to build something.
Yeah.
I want to do what nobody else does in order to have what nobody else has, and that's my freedom, right? I don't want to clock in from an 8 to 5,
right?
From 20 years old, live to 70, finally retire,
right,
and then maybe have 5 years
to enjoy it.
So I was front loading my life, right?
Right.
And that's a hard concept for people.
Right.
You talk about a 10-hour day. I was like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah,
let's work 16.
Just for clarity for the viewers. You had a goal to retire by a certain age.
Yes.
And so it was understood, this is what I'm doing. And the goal for us to benefit, because obviously if you're at a certain financial place, then she benefits as well.
That's right.
Because it's for everybody. That's why you were so, 10 toes deep on trying to get to the goal. And it was by what, 35?
I said 40.
Okay.
40 was the hard
be
number.
able to retire and just do whatever you want for the rest of you guys' lives.
That's right.
All right, go ahead.
And so anyway, went through that experience, and then there was a issue at the church because I served with the youth on Wednesday nights, and because of this, we went and met with the pastor, and obviously he was trying to keep everything on the DL. And then he said, hey, man, I just got to tell you, you've got to step away from serving with the youth. Because she got canned.
Okay. So there was a consequence for her.
Yeah, there was.
Okay.
As there should have been.
Right,
No
absolutely.
Now, the female pastor kept her job.
That's
now,
crazy.
that was a whole different subset as well. But we'll just stay on track about this scenario. But yeah, I got canned. And I was a volunteer.
Why did you get canned?
Because again, I guess it's my fault as well. But there was never a definitive reason. Well, you just need to take time to work on your marriage and this stuff. And anyway, at that point, I was just like, dude, I'm just done. Yeah. I'm done with you. I'm sorry. And he tried to call and text and communicate, and I ignored him. And then there was this, I went to this men's group, met once a week for about an hour and a half, and did activities and just fellowship, right? Well, he finally cornered me in the parking lot. He chased me out of the building because I was like, dude, you don't want to hear what I have to say. I mean, it is what it is. But he followed me to my truck, and I told him, I said, I'm going to speak to you as a man. You're not a man of God right now. You have to face me because you're cornering me.
Right.
And now the things and then he bowed up to me. And he's a man about 5'6" stature, not intimidating at all. Right. And being a pastor at that point, that's out the window. And so I had some very, very strong words that I don't regret at all.
What did you tell him?
Well, it depends on it depends on what's allowed to be said.
I had to bleep everything out. So
I mean, overall, what was your message to him?
Well, if he's gonna bleep it out, I'll tell you guys, and then that way, hopefully, I'll cover my mouth. So, but no, I said, you are a spineless piece of shit, that if you press me one more time, I will rip out your spine because you don't deserve to have one as a man, let alone a pastor.
Oh wow, okay.
Exact words.
That's fair.
So
that's fair.
But hey, I didn't press the issue.
Yeah.
You corner me.
You cornered
I told you. I mean, several times you don't want to hear what I have to say, and then you bow up. Okay, well.
So real quick, I've heard this theme several times that in therapy, counseling, when there's an issue between the couple, men oftentimes feel like no matter what happens, they are accused. And Pook, you spoke to that.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people go, "Oh, that's what happened to me. That's what." Why is it automatically assumed where she is admitting, "Okay, I did this," but how come you think it goes back to it's the man's fault?
I've got a thought on it. I don't know if it's right or not, but it's my feeling.
What's that?
As a man, you're supposed to be the leader of the household. So if the household is falling apart, you're a bad leader.
Okay.
So there is a sense of responsibility to that.
Okay.
I mean, that's inherent with being a man married.
Okay.
Based upon my beliefs. So I can see that. I mean, ship sinking, captain goes down with the ship. Okay, well, if you're the only one on a dinghy and let everybody else, drown, I'm sorry. Yeah. So
could be. I'm not sure why, but I mean, I know I've heard the feedback many times that guys have felt that way. So maybe that is it. But anyway, getting back to your story. Okay. So
So Act 2, or are we still on Act 1?
Well, I want to, because I still want to get through the actual process of the divorce.
Okay.
And for the sake of time, let's just say it this way. There was another instance of...
At the church. The church wanted to cover it up.
Okay.
The pastor then tried to step around what I said, no more communication.
Yeah.
And I had the exact same conversation with him as I did with the first one.
Okay.
So... that's number 2 inside the, well, actually number 3 inside the church, right? So
same church?
No, different church. So she got hired on with a new church.
Oh wow!
And there was infidelity at that church.
Yes.
With a woman or man?
With a man. Yes.
Okay.
He was the worship director.
Okay. So at what point did you say I'm done?
Well, after the first one, I got my stuff lined out exactly the way it needed to be for my own personal protection, and this was 6 years before I filed for divorce.
Okay, all right. You got all your affairs in order.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, was it at that point you said, "Okay, I'm planning to leave you over the course of 6 years," or was it just like, just in case this goes south, I better make sure I cover my 6?
That's right.
Okay.
So I didn't have the motive.
Okay.
But just the, I'm sorry, data points that line up like that.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as coincidence mathematically for that definition of consistent data points. So
yeah.
So I got my stuff taken care of in the event, because the writing's on the wall, right? It's just a matter of time. She's seeking something else. Okay, which is it? So then it came to the third one, and this started, and obviously everybody thinks I'm a dummy. My family doesn't know this stuff. She obviously thought she was being slick, and anyway, started working at this Mexican restaurant in a town where I own land, and anyway, and it's I won't go there. I won't say that, but it was, the writing's on the wall. It was, well, I'm going to Florida with my mom, and I said, well, how are you going to pay for it? Well, I've got money from last week. And I said, yeah, but what about the week that you're not making any money? What about those bills? Oh, well, you'll figure it out. Okay, well, I figured everything else out up to this point. So, it is what it is. And then finally, I got into a argument with one of my neighbors, and she blew up on me and just went crazy. I mean, for lack of better words, just crazy. And I had a friend there to witness, and he was just like, what in the hell was that? And I was like, hey, it is what it is. But at this point, I know what's going on. Yeah. So she just needed that reason. Okay, now I'm finally leaving. And then, so it was...
Because at the point you came to me, you were not fully at the point of saying, I'm done.
No, not yet. No. But I mean, knowing what's going on with everything now that it's all said and done, I can say nobody had the wool pulled over my eyes. It's just waiting for the time, because I had everything taken care of.
What was that one final thing that made you embrace or accept, I'm walking away? Because when you and I started walking together, a lot of the challenge for you was obviously your faith. Yeah. And when you commit to something, you commit.
The big thing for me was I was afraid of, because if I just filed for divorce and said we're done, then I was the one breaking the covenant. And that was something that I was just like, no. That kept me in it for so long. But the pivot point was whenever we were talking, and then you made it very clear to me, no, that covenant was broken 6 years ago.
Absolutely.
But you are the one that gave the multiple chances of this scenario, right? So once that clicked, that guilt and that fear of breaking the covenant, wait, no.
It's been broken.
No, that was a fallacy that was in my head. And anyway, so that was the point. And so what was it? I went and met with my attorney at the time, gave him the rundown, and I had to make sure that, because in Oklahoma, the date of filing is the date of separation. So, and this was coming up at the end of the year. Well, I had to think about obviously it almost took 3 years for the divorce, but then income and financial situation comes into play. Start of January, let's say January 4th I filed. Well, that entire year could potentially work against me. But again, I was playing chess with people that were playing checkers, right? So I got it filed December 17th, and but I did send a text saying, hey, I'm getting an attorney you'll be hearing from. And anyway, so had the papers delivered, and I did this intentionally to the Mexican restaurant that she said she didn't work at, because she was collecting cash only, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And
that she didn't want to claim.
Right, that she didn't want to claim. So that way there was, empirical evidence from, the specific address, and that's where she was working, and she got served divorce papers. Okay. So again, just another chess move.
So you said 3 years, and that's a long time. The process of getting a divorce, how would you describe it in one word?
Horrible. My bad.
Powerless. Working at the restaurant with the little that she was sleeping with, and moved in with, and all this stuff, which again is like whatever. I mean, I'm sorry, from a stature guy, 5'5", they're kind of on the same level, so I mean, good for them. But it was one of those like, hey, dude, you can have her. I mean, there's
yeah.
So the remorse from my end was not the fact that it was there. It was always thinking about the guilt of the covenant, right? So that's why I wanted to say that, because it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I just lost something that I can't ever get back. No.
Right.
It was the guilt and the fear of the covenant. Yeah. Because I made a promise, right? And that's not something you break, in my opinion, right?
Right.
So anyway, so the divorce, just powerless, because you can have all the proof in the world of anything. And obviously Oklahoma is a non-fault state, or no-fault state. So that's an irrelevant factor, right? But the amount of lying, and trust me, whenever you deliver 3,100 pages of documents and hand-delivered, of just empirical evidence of everything underneath the sun, right? And then you can get a discovery questionnaire. You have the empirical proof. I mean, shoot, you have a W-2 that's faked because the company didn't even exist that she was getting these W-2s from.
Wow.
But guess who owned the business?
The
little...
little guy.
Yeah.
So you got raked over the coals for 3 years when, in fact, you felt like this should be a slam dunk. I got all this evidence. Yeah. I got this history. Even though it's no-fault divorce, I get it. But did she intentionally make it hard? Did she go along, play along? Did you feel like powerless? It was powerless because of the state? Where did that powerless feeling come from? From
the state, from just absolute lies all the time. And I mean, again, if you're submitting something that is a sworn testimony and you're lying about it, that's perjury. Yeah. I mean, that's a big deal, right? And so, yeah, it should be. And so all you have to do is look through the paperwork and just match some things up. And it's like, okay, well, so then you're raked over the coals as a man in a divorce court as is, right? And thank God I didn't have kids.
Thank God.
So, but even with empirical evidence, that it's not even just like a he said, she said. I had the proof, but the she said with no documentation, no proof of or substantiation.
Just as much weight.
No, more weight. That's where the powerless comes through, because you can lie your ass off through the entire process. But here is documentation. And it was like it was worthless.
Why are you shaking your head up and down, Poop?
Oh, we talk about this all the time. the system is not set up for a man, right? In my opinion, based off of the divorces I've been through and based off the child support I had to pay and based off all the evidence that you could bring to the courts to show that there's lack of this and you provide this and I'm doing this and I'm set them up in a better house and I have you work your butt off to make sure that as a respectful man that you're trying to do the best you can for your family, only for it to be used against you, right? In my opinion. Right. So it's not in every case, but in my opinion, it's used against you because you've worked hard. You try to set yourself up financially to make it be good, only for you to be the one cheated on, getting less than across the board. Right. And then you present all these facts, right? The facts don't hold up to anything when it comes to court. Right. They can say whatever, do whatever, and even you can still be outside of therapy. We've had therapy sessions. I've talked to him. You don't have the right therapist or the right people around to try to support where you're going. Right. You can be made out to be the bad guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? Yep. So now I'm the bad guy in therapy, and then I'm a bad guy in court.
Yes.
Because I'm giving all this evidence to show, no, this is what happened. Right. It's not about what's happened. It's about what you now have to pay for.
Right.
So,
and the thing that where the powerless also comes into play was, okay, if we're talking about the multiple adulteries inside of the marriage, right? And that takes place in a no-fault state. Well, that has no bearing. So that means that's a feeling aspect, right? So the fact is, she didn't want to be in the marriage anymore. Okay, so filed for divorce. That's a fact, right? But her not wanting to be in the marriage anymore is also a feeling to a certain degree.
Right.
So then I provide facts and she provides feelings. Well, my feelings at this point are irrelevant, but her feelings are the gospel. That's where the powerless part comes in the court system, is because if fact is fact, let it be. But we can't flip-flop back and forth. And that was the aspect of the powerless. Because at first I was sitting there going like, hey, this is awesome. They're not providing anything. They're lying on sworn statements. Hey, I mean, this is slam dunk.
Is there even a sense of powerlessness with your own legal team?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there were many conversations of a lot of...
what do we do? You know what I mean?
No, well, I mean,
did you feel like your legal team had any empathy, or they was just in it for the payday?
Well, the problem with hiring a big firm is they're in for billables, and don't ever kid yourself. They're in it to make money. The amount of money that I spent on just email communication alone, oh my gosh, you would just be like,
you could feed a small country.
Yeah. but every time an email, I don't care if it's an okay or if it's a paragraph, right? It's a tenth of an hour regardless. And my billable per hour, well, then I had to have a secondary at a certain point in the 3 years. I had to strategy wise get a second set of to make sure that the chess game is still being played and use my first legal team as a pawn. And yeah, it's expensive, but I had to do it. And so the second set were a lot better. And it was like, okay, think about the big picture, right? This is going to be a speeding ticket in your life.
Okay.
Just get through it. Make it look like, oh my gosh. So, okay. You guys play checkers. I'm playing chess.
So I would wish I could just go 2-3 hours with this.
No, no.
Cameras get hot, but going from there, what did the healing? Because you got to heal through all of that.
Yep.
What was that process for you, and what made you say or no, I'm okay? I went through my process. What was that for you? The
exact conversation that we had. It was March 14th of 2022. I was sitting on my front porch having a cigar. And I was on the phone with Doc, and I said, I am seeing colors and tasting flavors again for the first time in a long time.
Nice.
I knew I was going the right direction, right? So it wasn't that, rattling the cage and letting out the monster. We still have to work on that one, right? I mean, even to this day, right? But that was when it really, that switch flipped. Once I realized I did not have guilt in this. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have plenty of sins, and I was not a perfect partner, perfect husband.
Right.
I mean, there's no doubt about that, But it was the guilt of the covenant that was hanging over. I mean, it was like this looming, and once that switch flipped, man, it was, night and day.
Yeah.
Then rather than being a recluse, I was like, dude, I want to just go start hanging out with people, meet new people. Yep. Not looking for a relationship, not trying to chase some tail or anything, nothing like that. But just go out and start living.
Yeah.
Go do some stuff. Have some fun. Quit killing yourself all the time working like you do.
Yeah. And so you were open to love again.
Oh yeah.
If it were to happen.
Yeah.
Why? Meaning that went so horribly bad for what was it that allowed you to say, you know what, I'd be willing to make myself vulnerable and do it again?
Just the progress that I had with you and talking about things and seeing stuff. If it happens, it happens, but not trying to go seek it out.
Yeah.
But not being a hermit or a recluse in the sense of trying to hide from things, because you never know what kind of blessing can be in front of you if you're open and you actually have a game plan of where you want to be at a certain point in life, right? So I had a wonderful coach and guidance counselor on this, but it was baby steps. Okay, well, don't rush into anything. Don't, but don't be afraid to go out. You're going to meet people. I mean, I'm not a really great looking guy, but at the same time, I'm not Quasimodo kind of, so, but I can carry on conversation with people and let's just like, all right, let's live a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it was just like, wow, that's a burden lifted.
It is.
So I think that's where the being able to have conversations to where you could be vulnerable started to come into play. And anyway,
And so did love show up?
It knocked down the front door. I mean, and it was crazy. It was crazy, but it was just taking the risk of meeting people, going out, and not going to bars and stuff like that. Again, that's not where, in my opinion, if you're somebody that might be hurting or still, going through, you don't go. I'm not saying don't go to a bar, but don't have the intent.
Right.
That was never my motive. But if it was one of those things like, hey, we're going to go to B-Dubs and go have some wings and a beer.
Right.
All right, let's go. Okay. And if you start talking to somebody, whatever, that's just a natural evolution of, stuff. But it was not like, oh yeah, I'm going to go find somebody, chase tail at the bar tonight just because I'm lonely or I'm hurting or whatever.
How did it show up for you?
In an unexpected way. I met somebody that I never would have thought, man. Never would have thought, but it did. And I call it our first meeting, right? I want to be informal, right? It was a date. I was like, man, she's really hot, but again, and then so we went to, I wanted to be very casual, but at the same time be very respectful. Okay. Again, I'm not taking a date to a bar.
Right.
I'm not taking a date to dinner or taking a date to a movie. I'm sorry, that's low value stuff, in my opinion. Because where are you going to have good conversation at?
Right.
Where are you gonna like see somebody? I mean, and not just see them physically, but see them, communicate with them, right? So we went to a park, and I had asked, because we had talked for probably 3 weeks before actually meeting. And anyway, so we went to the park, and she had said that she likes cranberry limeades. So cranberry limeade, I picked that up, and I left the top of the straw paper on. And she was kind of like, why'd you do that? I said, because you don't know me from Adam.
Right.
I mean, I could pull the lid off and, do something stupid like that, but at least it's a sign of respect, right?
Right.
And then, so we walked and talked for a little bit, and then said, all right, would you like to go on step number 2 of the meeting? And I still get razzed about this to the day. But, so I said, well, if you'd like, I'd like to take you out and introduce you to my donkeys and horses on my land. So she's like, okay, we can do that. I feel comfortable enough. It's about a 20-minute trip. And then after that, she goes, okay, well, what are we going to do now? I said, okay. Do you feel comfortable? Are you hungry at all or anything like that? And she goes, yeah, I could get a little snack, just because she gets hangry when she gets hungry. Trust me, I know now. It's almost been 3 years. So, but then we went to this, bar and grill, where we live, and man, we just sat there and talked, and it just clicked. And then the rest is history.
Nice.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Every relationship has its bumps and bruises and ups and downs and all that. But it's just been, it's been real.
Yeah.
Was she expecting to meet someone like you?
No, not at all.
How do you know?
Told me multiple times. And
she pray for you?
Yeah. But she also said she didn't know how to pray for somebody like me because she didn't know that they existed.
Nice. I think
that was the thing that clicked, because it wasn't like, yeah, I prayed for a guy like you. Actually, I prayed, but I didn't even know to pray for somebody like you, because and that's real. And I mean, that's showing some vulnerability and openness to that.
Absolutely. I was going to say, one of the things that I heard you say that I can agree with myself is, once you get in position to mentally, when you said it clicked, right? And you just allowed that burden not to really be on you, because it's there mentally, and you're like, oh, because I after second, third one, of course, I told him I'm doing it again. I was like, yeah, I actually did not. I was like, I'm never doing this again, right?
Never get married again.
And yeah, so and really going and being in a space to where you finally get to, it's kind of not tough, but once you get to a space to where what's in front of you and what you've been dealing with is, you're not really allowing it to just sit on you. You're like, all right, let me get to some normalcy. Some just going, like you said, you're not going out to look. Once you stop looking,
right,
and you're not trying to search for this thing that you really want, or feel like it's there, right? It seems like it comes from nowhere. It's just sits on you like, wow, where did this happen at? Because I wasn't even looking for this. I was just, if it happens, it happens. Right. But once you stop looking for it and just kind of go throughout your life and allow things to come about, I believe that's when that blessing comes to you, and you're like, wow, this thing that I didn't know exists is now here in front of me. And the way it's showing up is showing up in a way I've never saw it before. So
absolutely.
Now it's here, and you can appreciate it, based off of where it is and who she is and how she's coming about. So this, your new person that you found, how is she different from before? And like, is there kids? Is there not kids? What is, like, how does that work for you?
Man, comparing one to the other, it's like trying to play baseball in an ice hockey rink. You're not even on the right. It's
no comparison.
Yeah, I mean, you if you try to compare, you aren't even in the realm. I mean, I don't know how to describe it, but you can't quantify that because there is no comparison. And a lot of it, just from a simple explanation, I guess I could say, is selflessness.
Yes.
And a person that wants to make sure you feel appreciated in the little things, just little bitty things. But consistency of those little bitty things mean more than those big gestures of appreciation.
Absolutely.
I guess that's the easiest way I could explain trying to, it's just, whenever it happens, it's like, man, this person's either really freaking good, or it's a little bit scary.
Yeah.
Because you just get so conditioned.
Yep.
And, this is the way it is. It's like, nah, man, Chad, you've been doing what other people don't do to get where other people don't get. So why is this different?
Right.
Why do you keep your brain in a box? Because you've never been somebody that ever checks a box. Now, I've left jobs before, back in my early corporate days, and I said, if you guys try to fit me inside of a box, I'm checking out every time.
Right.
I don't fit inside the box.
Right. Yeah.
That's not how my brain's wired.
Nice. Yeah.
So, but that was whenever I could just take it in that, maybe let your brain get outside your own stupid box.
Yeah.
Because of conditioning.
Is there ever this is both of you, did you ever go through a waiting for the shoe to drop, like too good to be true phase?
I'd say for on face value, a little bit. I mean, just because you still want to keep your guard up, and it's not
came through trauma.
Right. So you're vulnerable, right? You're being open to possibilities, but at the same time, you have to be objective, right? And not just go with the feels, because the feels, man, they feel good,
feel great, but
man, you live your life by feels, and I'm sorry. Feels are not a plan. Well, I have a plan that I want to feel good every day. Good luck with that.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, no.
So, there's a little bit of that.
I think it's natural.
I think it's healthy.
Yeah, to have that, like, you don't know. because you're like, wait a minute, this is, like you said, it's nothing that you've felt before. But the what if, like, what's the other side? What's that other side of what's going to happen when this happens, right? Because life happens to everybody,
right?
But it's just the reaction that you're waiting on. You're waiting to see what is going to happen, and if that's going to be the worst I get, oh man, I'm great.
Okay, so and I said that to preface this. There are kids involved now.
Okay,
there's 3 boys.
Okay,
and so we waited.
And you have none.
I have none. That's right.
Oh wow. Okay.
Right, and so I was always open to the idea because I had a procedure to make sure I was not ever going to have kids.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And that was
on purpose.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Because I was like, there's no way in hell I'm going to have kids with this kid or with this woman. No, that took it right out of the, but I left the idea open, and this is something that was a concern was, well, you don't have kids, but I'd always stated that I'm always open to the option of adopting.
Okay.
Right. So when I found out that she had kids, it's like, okay, I've already said these words out loud. This is what I believe. Mm-hmm. I just don't want any of my own lineage. And I'll just say it, is I believe on both sides of my family, my lineage needs to die. Mm. It just needs to go away. Mm. Just because I know a lot about a lot. Mm. So I didn't want to put that burden on an offspring. And I sure as heck didn't want offspring from the other side, because, I mean, that's probably a similar, in my opinion. I know that's harsh and cruel, but at the same time, I'm being real.
Yeah.
So that was my personal choice, right?
Okay, yeah.
And a lot of people didn't accept that or take it very well. But they asked, why did I do it? Okay.
Yeah.
That's why. Well, how was that? But
it's good that you say that, though, because there are a lot of women out there who are watching this right now who have kids, and they'll think, I'm not going to be attractive to a guy because they're not going to want to take on the responsibility of these kids. But based off what you're saying, that's not true.
No, not true at all. Mm-hmm. I mean, at least from my end.
Yeah.
And I would assume that there's other guys out there that are like, hey, that's cool.
If she's right,
yeah,
it's right.
So you asked, so I had to tell you that because one big thing that was hanging out there that could have been in the back of your brain, is this too good to be true? Right? Mm-hmm. Well, we waited quite a while for me to meet the boys, but it had to be on their terms, right? It wasn't because she was like, hey, if I'm dating or seeing, I don't want this revolving door of my kids meeting all these get new guys that are just, in passing.
Right.
Not like sleepovers and stuff like that, but just bringing somebody into, no, I don't. And so when she said that, I was like, oh, all right, that's another big old green flag on that. Mm-hmm. But that was something in the back of the brain. Well, what if the boys don't like me? What if we don't click?
Yeah.
Right. And as a mama bear, I would expect her to say, hey, we had a good run. I thought this was something great, but it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
And that's something you have to accept, no matter what you try to do or whatever. If it's not a fit, it's not a fit.
Yeah.
And at that point, the kids should come before.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, hands down. And I don't think that it's as common as it should be, in all fairness. But that was a major green flag for me whenever. But that was also something that was going to suck on my end, because I'm sitting there like, man, this woman's amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's outside of the control, so you have to let go of the reins a little bit and not be a control freak and say, well, this is a realm of possibility. So, but man up and take the risk.
Yeah. But the boys, how'd they feel about you?
I think they like me a little bit.
That's cool.
Yeah. So you kind of feel like you're on an audition a little bit, like, because you want them to like you, right? Because you like Mama Bear, right? So how do you make sure you don't do too much? Hey, I'm Santa Claus.
Well, you definitely don't want to be the grandiose of just trying to buy love or attention or likability because of this. But at the same time, you don't want to be afraid of having some fun and showing them who you are.
Yeah.
So time, like going and getting fishing poles for everybody so we could go fish.
Yeah.
Or take them deer hunting. or, do some things that they may not have done a lot in the past, but they're aware of. Yeah. Or the simple fact that back in the day when I was young and I stopped playing video games in college, but they're big time gamers.
Right.
All right. Hey, you guys can beat up on me. I used to beat up on my dad, and, and all that stuff. Whenever I was young, I was good at video games, no doubt about it. Yeah. But it's evolved into a whole different level now, and it's just like, crazy. Dude, I'm stuck back in dinosaur days, and maybe the wheel was starting to get invented compared to now, right?
Right.
But it was spending the time. Give them a chance to see who you are.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But time is more important than the grandiose of the gifts, or going on trips, or doing, or. And we actually just took our first trip together, all 5 of us, back in June of this year.
Oh, nice.
And we went to Florida and went on the beach, and man, it was great.
Oh, nice.
But that was the first vacation I've been on in 10 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Nice.
Hustling.
Nice.
This brother gave me a trip, brought me to Oklahoma to fish and shoot, and he hadn't even been on one.
Oh, wow.
Chad's heart is just
that's awesome, man.
Certain people are just selfless, man.
No, that's real awesome to even even being a part of the reason that I was marrying in the past is because I grew up both my parents together, and I felt guilty for having kids out of wedlock. So my daughters that I had, I wanted to I valued 2-parent home. So I seen whoever I was with or married to, and they had a kid, and I'm like, okay, I love the way they parent and want my daughters to have that experience, right? And worst thing I did, but because like you said, if it has to be a commonality, right, and a mutual thing that other person like yourself, you've been through the steps when you were saying as a young age, you seen your dad and your bonus mom that you respected and see how the relationship was. So it was there, and it was something that you seen as a natural fit or came up. So with me, I never saw that. So now you have to kind of prepare to have include, right, inclusive things. So me, I love kids, and loving and nurturing and helping out with someone else's kids is an honor.
Absolutely.
Right? It's an honor to do.
Because I love kids as well.
Yeah.
I've got a fleet of nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
And I love them to pieces.
Yeah, it's an honor to do. And to now what makes it complicated is the adults, right? When you have adults that can't co-parent together and can't do the whole.
And then you get stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, Chad's your friend.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be your dad. That's not my job.
Yep.
My job is to love you, to protect you, be your friend, but not be a friend.
Right.
But there's space inside of that you have to constantly adjust back and forth between whatever the kid's going through. Because, they're developing. Cause
they are.
From 18 to 10, right? We've got the full range. And so they're moving, but you have to move with the same type of space, because if you encroach too far, then it's, oh, wait, you're trying to be my dad. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
But you also have to understand, you live in my house.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's a mutual respect between men that has to be followed and accepted. But at the same time, if you step too far away, then it's like, man, Chad doesn't like me anymore. What's up?
Yeah.
So it's always a moving target, but it's worth it in my view, because I feel like we've built a very strong bond 3 different ways.
Oh,
right?
great. That's good.
And there's no greater show of love than to take responsibility financially, otherwise, emotionally, for someone else's child. Because to some degree, you might, it's sometimes it's a thankless job.
Most of the time it's a thankless job. And it's not sometimes. It's like you really have to be selfless, right? And sacrifice, and to see the bigger picture that it's not about me. Right. It's about these little individuals that I can help give some type of guidance to. And because I love their mom enough, then I'm going to make sure I do right by them.
That's right.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's
just about being a real man. Yeah. Stepping up and doing what a man should do, And I will say this to my bonus mom's credit. She didn't want to have kids. And then I have a brother that's 8 years younger than me. That's my half brother, right? So she accepted all 3 of us, me and my 2 older siblings, for 8 years, without she was married to my dad, and that's why I call her my bonus mom. She didn't have to.
Not at all.
No, not her responsibility. And I mean, I promise there's empirical data behind it that she is legit bonus mom.
Nice.
So,
And so it's just, so I learned a lot from her on how to do some things. And I'll tell you right now, she didn't do everything perfect, and I sure as hell haven't done everything perfect.
Right.
But the spirit of what you're trying to do constantly, you always knew you were loved, right? And that's what I try to do as well, is just make sure, hey, the boys need something that, you know, and sometimes it's tough love.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
But not tough love doesn't mean I'm bringing out the paddle. I'm not saying that. That's not my job.
Right.
But I'm just meaning tough love as in how.
Oh, you don't do what Pook does. Okay,
Yeah, I
go ahead.
definitely did.
Now my mom, she didn't spare the rod, and thank God she didn't, because man, talking about just learning the value of authority and respect. Man, if you mess up, there's consequences.
Absolutely.
And it hurts. It hurts real bad. But I mean, to this day, I tell my mom, thank you. Thank you for whipping my butt.
Yep.
Because, man, all she had to do, pull out that thin black leather belt. And the best thing she ever did was switch to the paddle. But because I'm telling you, and I'll give you the exact reason why. Because that black leather belt went from cheek to cheek, and it wrapped all the way around. So and then it had that slap effect at the end of it. Oh, and man, you talk about messing with a mama that grew up on a farm. And then you really deserve it. Oh, you're going to get it. But then she switched to the paddle, and the paddle was only 2 contact points. So it was, comparatively speaking, it was so much better.
Yeah. This is a relief.
So anyway, but no, I wanted to point that out, that I had a little bit of a blueprint from my bonus mom.
Absolutely.
On how to be a bonus friend.
That is, I tell you what, man, I'll say awesome to you. Great job to you, and kudos to you for being open to help nurture, love, and accept it. Right. So,
and the thing, the perspective that I have as well is I also want, because the co-parenting on the other side, and this is something that everybody has to deal with if they've been divorced with kids, is it's not always easy. And sometimes the court shouldn't be favorable to men, because sometimes they are real pieces.
Yeah.
I mean, but we also know that it can go the other way on the female side, right?
Absolutely.
So it depends on the person.
Absolutely.
But the co-parenting sometimes is quite the challenge. And so to navigate that aspect as well, it's just, you know, something that you have to be open to, because it's trying at times.
Absolutely.
Anyway, just a little bit.
So, fellas, you know, we could talk for probably 2 more hours, because this is some stuff we still wasn't able to get to. But for what we shared, what you shared, just amazing. Like I said, I can't say enough. You're a wonderful human being, and the fact that you were willing to sacrifice or be vulnerable enough to go through the process, and vulnerable enough to put your story out here, you know, because the stuff that you shared, you know, some guys, man, I don't want to share that. That's embarrassing. But I guarantee you, it's going to help some guys. You know, it may help some women too. Like the comments are going to say, oh, thanks for sharing your story. And I just want to tell you, just thank you from the bottom of my heart, man, for just being you and coming here in the whole 9 yards. So I appreciate you, man.
You're very welcome. I love your content. Obviously, love your coaching, and but there is another side to life that it's like you're tasting flavors and seeing colors again.
Yeah. And
just go through the right steps and to put yourself where you can receive it.
Yeah.
Yes,
because think about it like this real quick. If I would have met my human right now 10 years earlier, or vice versa, we wouldn't have been ready.
Nope.
We would not have appreciated each other the way that we do now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So
100%.
just go through the pain, the process, and just know that there's something on the other side that's worth it, I promise.
Man,
Yes, sir.
You spoke a whole sermon just in that.
Yeah.
Man, I could do an hour just on that. But anyway, we got to get out of here. Appreciate y'all for listening. Please subscribe. And we'll catch y'all next time. Y'all take care.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace.